Okay, well, I've got 6:04. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Open Space Committee for November 17th, 6 p.m. And we have a quorum of the Open Space Committee here tonight, plus some guests. So I'm going to go around and mention people's names. It's a Zoom meeting, and this is being recorded. We have to remember our charge, why we are here. And it's a special meeting of the Open Space Committee with just really one agenda item. So from Open Space, we have Janet Brown representing CPC, Joy Piper representing Select Board, Charlie McDonald at large, myself representing Planning Board. And let's see. And just getting an email. Okay. And then we also have guests tonight, Janet Kane. And tonight, I think you're representing housing, Sarah Stein, and you're a special appointee to the housing production plan from the planning board, right, Sarah?
Yes, and I was just kind of listening in tonight, just curious.
Oh, good. Okay. And then Chris Fowles is a guest, who's also a member of the select board, and Sierra Simmons is a member of housing, and Ryan Gillher. And you are here. I know who you are. Do you want to say your interest tonight, or more importantly, do you have any public comments?
I'm just here as Ryan Gillher, 75 Russellville Road. Nothing to do with any town boards.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And so having introduced everybody, I'm going to go ahead and ask if any of the members of the public wish to make any public comments at this time. And if not, we can defer to a later point. So just speak up if you wish to say anything at this point.
I do have one question, Cindy. When I logged in, I didn't catch it all, but Janet was talking about a meeting tomorrow. Is it Zoom? Is it 5:30 or 6 o'clock? What is that for? Housing?
Are you talking about Janet Kane? Okay.
Janet Kane, yes.
Yeah, I can address that, Cindy. So when this came to us probably a week ago about the right of first refusal and if we had interest, we postponed making a decision at that exact moment without doing any homework, and decided to schedule a quick meeting at 5:30 tomorrow before our production plan community meeting to take a vote whether we would recommend or waive the right of first refusal for the East Street property. Yes.
Okay, is that a Zoom meeting or in person?
Yes, yeah, it's online. It's
okay.
Online. Yep.
All right, good enough. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, we'll proceed then. We are going to review minutes from the last meeting, and I'm going to call them up at this point. I hope you members of the committee all got these. Can you see the draft minutes that Janet sent out? And I'm not going to read them or anything, but these are them. And if everybody's had a chance to read them, does anybody make a motion to accept as written, and we can have discussion after that, or any comments?
I'll make a motion to accept as written.
Okay, motion by Joy, and do I hear second?
Yes, there's a second from me.
Okay, Charlie gives a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Can you, I'm going to call your names, member of committee. It's a little easier that way. Say whether you accept or not. Charlie?
Yes.
Janet Brown?
Yes.
Let's see here. Who else have we got? Oh, Joy?
Yes.
Cindy Palmer, yes. Okay, unanimously accepted. While they're up, I'm going to just note that we did discuss this whole, the letter from Amanda Kemp, attorney Amanda Kemp, and offering the opportunity for the town to exercise its right of first refusal on the property that we're going to discuss. And we noted that there would be some people going forward to do a little bit of research. So I just have that part here. Let's see here. Oops, you know what? This is not the original. This is the one. I apologize.
This is the one you made corrections.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm sorry I don't have the one that Janet already did the corrections on, which she emailed out. So that's the one we voted on. Let's see here.
No, we voted on the ones with your corrections.
That That is correct. Yeah, the ones you sent out.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. So I didn't call the right ones up. All right. Anyway, we'll have to remember what we all agreed to research. So the only other part of business tonight is it's old business. And I'm going to call up the letter and the map from attorney Amanda Kemp, just to review this tonight. Oops, not that. Where is it? Stop share. Start again. And of course, I've lost it. Okay, I'm going to have to go back and find it. Excuse me.
Cindy, I have it if you want to let me share.
Well, I'm almost there.
Okay, good, good.
I had it up. I don't know what I did, but I did something. You can be the backup plan here.
Teamwork.
Okay, now this should work. Can people see that now? Is it open? There we go. Can people, I'm sharing screen now. Can people see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll enlarge it. Okay, so we're talking about this property on East Street right here, 20 point something acres. And we already described it last week. It's near another development here, Whispering Meadow, and it's above LaBrie Field, and there's an open space here, and there's open space on this side. And then the letter from Amanda said that this is coming out of chapter for residential use for construction of a minimum of 8 single-family homes, and they're requesting a waiver of the option to purchase. And so what we need to do is debate this. Let's go back to stop share. There we go. Okay. Who would like to begin the discussion from anybody? It can be open space or it can be anybody else present tonight. Does anybody want to say anything at this point? Does anybody have any opinions? I will tell you that I did contact Mark Walmsley from Kestrel Land Trust, and he told me that there's a couple other similar projects, which is a combination of housing and open space. One, I believe, in Easthampton and one in Northampton. He was going to try to get me some more information before tonight's meeting, and unfortunately, I was not able to receive any more. So I don't have anything. Janet, I think you made Janet Kane, you made a contact with somebody. Do you want to speak about that at this point?
Yeah, actually, Sarah and I met with Paul Lachetti today, and Jeff, both from Hilltown Community Development Corporation. We met on the property, kind of take a look at it. We just listened to their comments and have a couple items next. I think one of the things that they were, besides the price of the property being a lot for affordable housing as a starting point, that you probably would only build on the open lot. You really only need 5 or 6 acres. So our interest, and I can't speak for the housing authority, I can only share with you because we haven't met so we meet tomorrow, but kind of the feedback that he and Jeff shared with us. So, things we bounced around, if it was shared with open space, how we would split the cost. Again, we haven't talked about it in housing. So he had a couple suggestions, maybe 50-50 because the open space is not as buildable as the front acreage. We talked about transportation and probably need to provide some kind of transportation, and would we give the land to them? I mean, we had bounced around a lot of ideas, but no decisions are made. And I guess a final kind of topic we'll probably touch on tomorrow night is if it were to be purchased by a builder, would they, with some support from the Housing Authority CPC funds, be willing to add one or two houses, affordable houses to their lot? I mean, that's kind of, just sharing information, not sharing anybody's perspective at this point. So.
Okay, yeah. So anyone else want to say anything at this point?
Sure, I would just like to, oh.
Okay, excuse
Joy,
me.
please.
Oh, I just want to say, I have a full opinion about this, but just off of what Janet just said about speaking with the developer, I would extend the invitation to him tomorrow to come to the Housing Authority meeting, since he is here. And I think that there should be transparency about the presence here at this meeting as well.
Okay, great.
It's in my calendar.
What? Sorry, I didn't catch that, Ryan.
It's in my calendar for 5:30 tomorrow.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask Joy to repeat what she said. I was thinking, you were talking about the developer being available. I thought you meant the man that Sierra and Janet met with, but you meant the developer, and that developer is Ryan, and it's in your calendar.
Yes.
Okay, very good. One of the things we talked about was asking, because I'm speaking for myself only at this point, Cindy Palmer, that I'm sensitive to the fact that our town really needs more affordable housing. And when I've asked developers, when I've been at the planning board meetings and they've come in just short of the inclusionary bylaw, for reasons that are variable, I'm surprised there's never any affordable development within another subdivision, but there hasn't been. And maybe there needs to be some kind of other thing that happens so that we do this on behalf of people in our town. But I'm excited about the potential for this being something. I think it comes down to cost. And I know that there are potentially other developments that could come up. We know that there's 100% match in CPC money for this year. That news just came from the state. That meant that whatever the totals of all the different pots, the three being historical, housing, and open space. The open space, those three, not. I see a couple people just showed up here. Hi, Dan. There's going to get another $26,000 approximately in each of those pots, and then the undesignated is going to get about $170,000. So that's more than that's state money that's going to be coming in addition to the surcharge money on our taxes. So that's just something to keep in mind. And so from my standpoint, it strikes me as doing exactly what we're doing, thinking really hard about, is this the right spot for this? Is this something where the town could do something on behalf of this whole goal of more affordable housing, and doing it as a kind of mixed-use project with open space, given where it is, and it's really a pretty area up there. I'm thinking that's a positive thing. But on the other hand, it would be for housing. So from my standpoint, personally, doesn't meet all the criteria for conserving it for open space alone. It's not next to another conserved property. And so I see it more as the housing with a open space component to it. That's me speaking from my opinion. Anybody want to add or ask or
I
say?
have a question. Does housing have a choice between this property and the property around Cumberland Farms? Is that a part of this decision-making process that housing will undergo?
Well, we were approached and we were given a presentation by Bob and Bill Cannon on their proposed layout to include up to 10 units in their recommended development. I don't know how far, I don't even know how to define it, but that they would do up to 10 units in a 40-unit development. So, but would need funding, some support from the Housing Authority CPA funds to make that a reality. So, a chunk of money for whatever this parcel is, plus the closing costs and the legal costs would probably put it upwards of 500 to use maybe 5 or 6 acres. You know, it's what we'll discuss tomorrow.
500,000, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Does that sound, even though it hasn't been voted on, does that sound like a more attractive parcel relative to the parcel on East Street?
Again, it's, please join us tomorrow. It's going to be, hopefully to be a short meeting because we have our community meeting, after that, for the housing production plan, which is also, we appreciate anybody's input into that. Location, certainly seems more, it has it doesn't have a lot of transportation, but it's closer to facilities, probably wouldn't require, I think if we worked with somebody like Hilltown CDC, they would build rental-based units, whereas, and I'm not saying that's what we would do. We don't, it's a big question mark. And whereas the Cannon development would be, purchase deeded affordable housing. So.
Okay.
So if I could take an ideal location, I think College Highway is more ideal, but we're so far away from, knowing what will really happen there. It's hard to say one way or the other, quite honestly.
Yeah. Okay.
Sydney, can I ask a question or?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, so there's a lot of components in the affordable, and there is a need in town, and I know there's a want, and I think trying to find the right location is key. And you hit on a lot of the major things as far as, transportation, location, utilities that are available. I mean, the town has changed in the sense that the center of town, where is the center of town now? If you ask someone, is it Paisanos and Dunkin' Donuts, or is it down by the senior center? So some of these things are playing into major factors for the affordable. Now, no one, obviously this is very preliminary, and you guys have brought that up. And the question always comes, why do we always have subdivisions that are 8 or 9 lots that fall under that threshold? This parcel can't do more than the 8. We're stuck right at the 8. So that was one of the questions I looked at it when we did some layout. Could we possibly do something and, meet some of these requirements? And, I would love to be one of the first people possibly to do one of these projects if it fit and it works. The other component that I think, that needs to be looked at is if you have funds to purchase the land, it's the funds that it's going to take, because we work with all these groups, Hilltown CDC, Valley CDHC, Beacon, Wayfinders, all of them, and I have over the last 20 years, is that the cost to take it from the purchase to the infrastructure to the building et cetera. And there's a calculation, there's a number with the amount of units that you need to get to make it work with the infrastructure cost and the raw land purchase. And you'll see a lot of times we're working on a project in Sunderland. It's maybe 4 acres, and I think they're getting 28 to 32 units. I mean, it's shoehorned in and it's tight. And, if they can control the land costs, they can spend a little bit more on the building and the infrastructure, but you can't, this is a little bit different where it's a larger parcel and the use is kind of different. So, I mean, I think everybody's got to look at it as a whole is if a piece of land, I'm not saying this just in particular, but anything in the future is purchased, what are the steps, where's the funding, and how long or is the process to follow it to the end of putting people into these units and the timeframes? Because it's a great concept and a great idea, but if it's going to take too long, on the process, we're spending and using the money, but I don't think it's a good use of the money where there's that other project that you talk about by Cumberland's, and they came in, I didn't know about this till the other day, and they presented to do some affordable, I mean, the location, the transportation, the utilities, et cetera. I mean, those are all things. This piece of property, and for example, the water main does not run in front of this property. So as it is right now, to get a building permit, we'd be putting in wells.
So Ryan, the only thing with Amanda's letter stated a minimum of 8 units. So I guess I'm surprised to say your maximum is 8 units. So that was just maybe an interpretation she misunderstood. I don't know. And of course, it is way too premature to have an idea of all the things we had one meeting with Hilltown CDC,
Right.
They have their formulas and that's, whether we lease the property to them and they build rentals, or we go out to an RFP, or we don't buy the property at all. Those are all, I don't have any answers for you at this point.
No, and I know, I think everyone needs to know that is not familiar with the process. I mean, we work on these projects as a subcontractor to a prime general, and we'll hear about this in the making, and then it goes for funding and tax credits and such. And, we might go in and dig test pits for the general contractor, and it might be 5 years or 4 years or 6 years till there's bid documents. It's a process. It's not something that's a quick turnaround. And
right. And I would say a minimum of, and I'm just kind of speculating based on what I've read, like 5 years is probably a minimum for the process. So
yeah,
I don't know if did I lose Sierra somewhere?
I think she departed, or at least I don't see her anymore.
Yeah, me too. So anyway.
Can I ask you a couple questions? Well, Joy, were you going to ask a question?
Yeah, actually, I was just going to address a couple things just from the select board side. So actually, the other night we discussed the sewer issue in that area and not sewer issue. I think water line, or even maybe limited sewer as well. So
we don't have sewer.
And talking. Yeah, no, yeah, I know. I meant the
definitely water.
Water. Yeah, I forgot. It was late at night. MVP did a presentation on it and bringing it to town. So I think that was something that we were like, oh, housing, if we do any housing, that's definitely something that we would be interested in placing properly. I think, so this is an open space meeting, right? And why are we talking about affordable housing in open space? And I think why this property in particular was interesting for housing authority and open space was because there is opportunity to keep some of the space open and to keep, there is minimum place to build, but we can make that affordable and we can keep a lot of the space open. And, this town historically hasn't been very open to affordable housing. And how can we package that to make it, more appealing to the town to be open to? And I think that's, where we're coming at from the open space side of also keeping open space while working with other boards into working towards goals that the town has. Do I think that that is the best use of the funds? Not necessarily, especially after the presentation we saw from Cannon. But that's why we're talking about it here in open space. And because there was a component of keeping some of it open space and doing a partnership with Housing Authority.
I'm going to ask if you know the answer to this, Ryan. Has this property been appraised?
I do not know that.
Okay. And the second is, if I want to just make sure I understood what you said a moment ago. It sounds like your company has done several projects in the area. You said that. If this land was to be purchased by the town under the opportunity for exercising the right of first refusal, and giving it to a developer with an agreement, very complicated, we already know that's very, very complicated. Would that give the developer the opportunity to build affordable housing and sell it? Or is that not enough? I mean, if the land was no cost to the developer?
Typically, most of the projects we work on, the developers are a partnership. And sometimes you get a couple of the nonprofits that'll join together. Sometimes, like Beacon is a large one, they'll do it on their own. And they end up making a majority of it apartments, and then they will do some to be like single family homes. There's all different models they've done. I mean, we've worked in Holyoke, Springfield, Amherst, Northampton, the list goes on, and they're all a little bit similar, but a little bit different. But majority of it is a rental type community is what it is, where there's market rate and there's the affordable side.
Okay.
Because that comes into the tax credit side, the financial side.
So I really appreciate you are a Southampton person. You grew up here, that you say you really would like to do a project like this. And I don't know how this can work. Maybe this is we got location and do we have all the parts to do a project like this? And nothing's come up heretofore. I think that housing years back tried to meet with a lot of developers. Am I right on that? You were probably invited to that. This is a different committee now, and they wanted to know how could they make this happen, and there were no good ideas. I just don't know what your thoughts are. Is this something that can happen in our town?
It can happen, and this is my opinion, and take it for what it's worth, but it's location and access. So I look at East Street to me, as a kid growing up, it's almost a gateway to Southampton, because it comes from Holyoke, you can access from Easthampton, you can access from Westfield. I've probably traveled the road 3 million times in my life. So that's good, but you're on the outskirts of Easthampton, Holyoke, and Westfield, where you don't have public transportation, and I foresee public transportation is going to go to Route 10, Palmer Meadow Road, the Westfield line, prior to it's going to go to East Street. Same thing if we ever put sewers in. I mean, the sewer is going to go in the main corridor of the town. You're not going to start on the ancillary side roads and pull it in, because you're going to use that as your main feed to wherever your treatment plant is. So, it has to be, and I understand it's open space, and the town has the first right of refusal to go through this and look at it, and in complete transparency, I don't have to be on here. I mean, my name's not attached to it. I've been on every meeting. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. I think I have interest in it. So I'm just as curious as what the decision is and how things are going to go and work. And, not every piece of property is good for, I'm going to say, a cluster or, and the inclusionary zoning bylaw, where it's going to work and function. I think as a resident of Southampton, this parcel, not because I have interest, it's a little bit too far out of the hub of the town. I think there's definitely other parcels. And like I said, I didn't know Bob Cannon brought that parcel in until last week. I had a conversation with him. That's a very interesting parcel for sure. I mean, if something can happen there, I mean, that's in the mecca, if you want, of Southampton in the area. I mean, I think there's other parcels that could be looked at, but we need to look at the density, because all these projects they do that work, it's a lot of units in a small piece of property. Now, there's another piece on East Street that's been for sale privately near the library. There's a handwritten sign. It's for sale by owner. So.
Oh, I know what you mean. Is it
Yep.
owned, is it
The
closer to
Wright
the center?
family, Patrick
clo-
Wright. And
Yes.
It's the Wrights.
Yeah.
They actually called us up. Yep.
Right, okay. I mean, he called me as well, but there's an interesting parcel that I think's 3.5 or 4.5 acres.
Yeah,
And,
like
you know,
5, yeah.
Okay, right. So like what could be done there? And that's kind of what I thought is like you could do a cluster, you could do some affordable, like I think his asking price is a little strong, but you know, the town might be able to do something because you'd be able to do affordable project or do some units, more units, and the numbers would work out better.
Okay.
My understanding
There's
is
a lot of wetlands there too, in the back.
I never got that far.
Yeah.
He gave me the price, he gave me the acres, and I looked at it. It's one building lot.
All
So
right. Janet, did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
I was just saying the same as you just said, Cindy, that our understanding, it's a very wet piece of
Yeah.
property, so we had some
Right.
questions.
Okay. I just going to deflect slightly here. We've had 2 other members of the Open Space Committee join since we originally called the meeting to order, Diana Fetterman and Dan LaValle. And Dan, I think you're representing Parks, and Diana, you are representing Concom. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
Paul asked me to fill in for
Yeah,
her.
that's fine. That's good. I'm glad you're here. So at this point, I don't want to cut off conversation or questions. Does anybody have any more comments, questions at this point? Okay, so I am with Joy to a large extent when she said this is really not, your usual open space project. It's more of a housing project. But we do have, because when Concom met and voted and when Planning Board met and voted, they both deferred to open space and housing. So we have a responsibility to do exactly what we're doing, which is debating it. Do I hear any motion? And I have a thought on a motion, but I don't want to take away from anybody else.
I mean, I have something to say and I would make a motion, but I don't.
Okay,
If you wanna, I'll make a
just
motion
say it.
at the end of it, and then if you want to add to it, okay. So just a couple more. I actually do have comments. I'm just sitting here like writing them down. I don't think that this property is a priority for open space. I haven't heard anything about it prior to this, this proposal or option to purchase, and I think that Open Space and Conservation Commission has done so much work in the past couple of years, but they have so many responsibilities, very limited resources, and this would be a huge investment of time, money, energy that I just don't think that Open Space has right now. Further, like going on from our conversation that we had at our last meeting, taking actions that are targeted towards our goals, right? Are we looking towards the larger 500-acre land grant with Kestrel? Like, are targeting those property owners who want to use Chapter 61A or B? I mean, I think the actions that we take have to be very targeted towards the larger goals that we have. And I don't think this property fits into any of those goals. And I don't think we should just be grabbing shiny things because we see them. And ultimately, I believe that we should be feeding on the housing authority side. I think that we should be feeding the hand that asked for the food. I think that we had local business leaders come to us with a really innovative project and lots of thought and lots of effort. And they seem like they have a plan. And I would be very hard pressed not to support those who really want to support our communities in the way that we really truly need. So from the open space side, I would move for the open space committee to support a waiver of the right of first refusal on this property.
So
I
there's a
would
motion.
support that. I would support that motion. I agree with what Joy said.
So that's second. Are you seconding it, Charlie?
Yes, I would. Yes, that's, yeah.
Okay. Do I
It's
hear
a
any?
formal motion, yeah. I agree with the comments she's made about it not being well fitted to some of the goals we have in open space.
Okay. So is there any discussion?
So just so I understand, I'm sorry, Diana, you go first.
I would just like to say that I would hope we could encourage some preservation of open space on the property, because even though it's not contiguous with other conserved land, it is right smack in the middle of a huge swath of undeveloped land and farmland and other open space. So it's certainly a wildlife corridor. It has to be. And it just would be nice if, some aspect of that could be preserved, even if it's developed. That's my thought. Not a motion or anything, just a thought.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to waive. And we have a second. Do we have any further discussion?
The one part I wanted clarifying is, so under open space, it would fall into the categories of, say, the Conservation Commission, which would have like hiking trails, or it'd fall under the Parks Commission, right? The way we're considering this one would be, the thought was it would work as open space, not as conservation land, because they said no, but as open space in combination for housing, right? So that was kind of like the background discussion. I'm just trying to catch a little bit, catching up and understanding. And okay, I get it. All right.
Dan, I think it would fall under recreation. Like if you're thinking about like the CPA, like different funding, I think it would fall under recreation, because remember, Concom passed up on this property
Okay,
because there was no wetlands. It's not within their jurisdiction.
So
they
parks?
They don't want to have anything to do with it, but I think they have some part in, they eventually kind of help out with the open space that we do acquire, because it falls under the recreation of CPA,
Yes.
I think, or an open space in general. So yeah, I don't know what their participation would be at all with the property, but I'm just saying there is no wetlands on there. They waive the rights.
Yeah.
Okay.
In under parks, we're not ready to add another park in town. So
Okay. Okay. Very good. So there's a motion, there's a second, and I'm not cutting off discussion. Does anybody have any other questions or comments, or can we go to a vote? So the motion is to waive with a second. And I would have to, if we did this, I would have to create a letter to the select board giving, the result of our vote. What I heard was a suggestion that while we haven't voted yet, while we might waive this, that we encourage that there'd be some consideration for maintaining open space within the property. We can't. That's not something we can have control over, just a recommendation. And I would like to add that I really would like to amend the motion at this point to say I would vote to waive, but with defer to housing for their further discussion. I want to make certain that my opinion is that this committee should recognize that housing is the one that should be ultimately deciding at this point. So that's my amendment.
I would agree with that, and I apologize to the housing members here for not including that in my original motion.
Are you seconding that amendment, Joy?
I will second it.
Okay. So we got a motion to waive, and it's been amended to defer to housing, and with the encouragement that open space be protected in any way possible on the property. All right, it's a roll call vote. I'm going to call.
Wait, could we ask could we ask Ryan what he thinks about that, about preserving?
I'm inviting anybody to make any comments. Ryan, do you have any comments?
Yes, sorry. So actually, I do have a couple comments. One for Joy in regards to, feeding the hand that came. Absolutely. When I looked at this piece, we looked at what we were able to do, and there's a lot of factors that come into play that how it would work. And I didn't come with an affordable equation because it just, the way the parcel was, it wasn't going to work for that. So that being said, as far as the open space, we're very preliminary. Just so everybody knows, when you look at a piece of land to try and subdivide and put a subdivision, we put some lines on a piece of paper, some approximate road dimensions and lots. We don't take into account in the beginning, because you're preliminary, topography, wetlands, there's a lot of hurdles in there. So will I take it into consideration as we go through the design process? Absolutely. Is it going to be attainable? I can't make any guarantees, but it is on our radar.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Diana? Did Ryan answer your question?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right, roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, which is to waive the right of first refusal, but defer to housing and to encourage any possible use utilizing open space. I'm going to call your names. Joy?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Janet Brown?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Cindy? Yes. Unanimous. Okay. Great. Boy, talk about town government at its best. Janet Crane raised her hand, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for deferring to us. I don't think it's necessary. We do have that option. It's certainly not important that open space make that statement, but thank you for the inclusiveness of that. So
We're just following the pattern that Conservation Commission and Planning Board did, which deferred to both of us.
Well, also, just to be legally specific, it says in the letter from Attorney Kemp that I think the right of first refusal was for Conservation Commission and open space. I forgot if there was or historical.
Planning Board was in there.
Yeah. So, but there was no mention of the Housing Authority. So I think that's why it's important to mention that in the motion.
thank you.
That's a good idea. Thanks, Joy. Okay, so we don't, let's see here. I have 13 minutes before book club. Sorry. I just want to look at the calendar to decide our next Open Space Committee meeting. Could we do it on Thursday, December 9th? This is the Open Space Committee. Is that good for everybody? We usually meet on Thursdays.
That's fine.
12/9 at 6 p.m. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Via Zoom?
Via Zoom, yes. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I move to?
Second.
I'm sure it's unanimous. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you. I appreciate you tonight, Ryan, too. Thank you so much.